By the element of saying, there's too much change going on, can I look at change? I want a little bit more of an orderly existence, because you'll only get yourself wrongly stressed about that. I think the third very critical one is, it's very important for you to enjoy what you're doing. And I don't mean enjoy as in fun, just really, really enjoy and have a good sense of pride. Because again, there are no job guarantees, the risks of everything are going to be even higher and higher as we step up in the career. So the least you need to do is go with something that you totally enjoy. Maybe the one more I would say is, we spend just too much of our time in our young age trying to live somebody else's life, or trying to look at it from what will this one think, or how will this one think, even what my parents would think, which is important, but it's not critical. But I think at that early stage, it's a complete waste of time for us to start building ourselves, our career, our options, our personality, whatever else, in view of how somebody else will look at you. And last, whether we like it or not, yeah, we do need to be very strong storytellers. You do need to make eye contact, and you do need to be able to communicate. And communicate doesn't mean great elocution. Communicate means connect. You can connect in any way. You can connect with silence for all it cares. But really, today, you're not going to really succeed if you don't have the formula to have that little bit more of attention, be a little bit more front of line, a little bit more proactive in what you want to do. So I would say, in that 5-year difference, it's not very long. I can always go back and say,
let's pick it up. Let's pick it up. You said be dynamic. You said love what you do. Now, going back to your
enjoy more than love. I mean, sometimes you love it, sometimes you want to enjoy it.
Yeah, fair enough, right? Yeah. So your early stint with pioneering the industry came with UTV, right? But I always felt that it was ahead of its time, so risk was very high. It could have gone wrong, but what you actually ended up doing is kind of work and make deals with some of the biggest media companies on the earth, right? So I believe Disney, Bloomberg,
News Corp and Fox.
News Corp, right? Now that was amazing, and that was the time for everyone else when he did that. All of us in media felt that he is at the top of the game of that industry, right? So we felt that you would be slated to do something even bigger in the same industry, but you did something completely different. Not that Ronnie just left the organizations, but you left that industry for a time being, right? And you switched to social engineering, you switched to investments, you switched to education, right? That's just a completely different piece, right? So the way I always looked at it, pioneered, constructed a deal, went back, restarted. Let's do it this way. You said creativity. That was one of the points. Be creative. In 5 minutes, maybe not 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. Tell us about your own story when it comes to in this regards. The way you have told us stories across televisions and movie theaters.
Yeah. No. Look, I think for me it was a lot of serendipity, and I think that should relate to a lot of people's students here. Because it's not about my story. I think it's, if I have to make the connect and hold everyone's attention, it's more about making that connect. So I think when I was in college, I took to theatre, elocution, and dramatics. That serendipitously led me into media, right? It gave me that sense of self-conviction. It taught me collaborativeness. It taught me so many other things in that context. So I think when you say, there's always a very, very small sliver being before your time and being able to hold it out.
Yeah.
And there's two problems there. One is if you hold on to something wrong for a long period of time, it's only going to waste a lot of your time. So timing is everything. But at the same time, you're just about a little bit more before. So when you're really pioneering something and you think it's not before its time, it's about how long you stick it out. So I think it's nice in retrospect to be able to talk about the fact that it was a little bit before its time. It was before its time for almost 8 years. So for that 8 years, you can look at everything in an extremely challenging manner. But I think the success was not pioneering, the success was sticking it out. So I think that's the game, and I think that's the thought process that has to go through people's mind, that what's the cost at which I want to stick out on my self-conviction. And at the same time, I can tell you when I started a media company, I started a home shopping network in the country. And about 2 years I realized this is not going to be good for the next 20 years. And it is before its time, because we didn't have credit card penetration, there was no cash on delivery. In retrospect, if I stuck with that, we'd have been bigger than Flipkart. but who cares about retrospect? You don't get a luxury or a license for hindsight. So I think how you stick it out is very, very critical and important. When we started it, again, my sense of lack of entitlement allowed me to look at building a business without the entitlement that I first needed funds to start a business, which is what today everyone thinks about. Oh, I can't start a business because I need funding. So I think that element there took us out. So the ability for us to stay the course for 8 years was because we didn't get funding in many ways, and because we needed to find a model, and because we needed to innovate. And I think that stood out. So that later on, it was incredible, because I think the learning we had first by partnering with Rupert Murdoch, and then me buying back shares from them, and then reinvesting and having a partnership with Disney. And we wanted to start a business channel in India. And at that time, CNBC was there, and I really wanted something that had a brand name along with what we wanted to do. And so we went across, and I wanted to connect with Michael Bloomberg, and it was impossible because after about 6 times, when I finally got the meeting with him, he just said, we don't license anything anywhere else in the world. And it took about a year and a half of, into inverted commas, just dropping in to the New York office saying, I'm in the city, but I was taking a morning flight and taking the evening flight back out to Mumbai, that actually got us to have that partnership. So I think you need that sense of self-conviction to be able to do that.
Very, very interesting. So, as we spoke about interactivity, either we could take a question right now, or my next question, because what we just started, I wanted to talk a little about entrepreneurship, right? Because we have people here who will be future entrepreneurs. I always feel it's a very wide word, right? You cannot put it together. But from our last few conversations, I know you have this 3F theory, first of all, which I'm not going to explain, you're supposed to explain. But also 3 important points, right? I want to get your opinion on timing in entrepreneurship, dovetailing into what you just told me in terms of holding it out. Secondly, very importantly, we feel back in India that one of the dreams is going global with our businesses, right? I mean, you've done it, we've always thought about it, but I know you have contrarian views around this, and that would be interesting to kind of actually put there. And the third is something which you said, and it has always stuck with me, is the value essentially versus wealth creation, right?
Yeah.
So, Olive.
Yeah, what was the first one you said?
So I'm going to go with timing.
Yeah, timing. No.
What are your 3 Fs?
I think for all of us in our careers, we're about the choices we make and the timing in which we exercise what we want to do. It's about the choices we make and it's the timing in what we necessarily want to do. And I think it boils down to that. So therefore, at that crossroad, which may be almost every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year, or every 4 years, you're making choices. And that's actually either going to have you the opportunity or the consequence. In the same element, for me, timing is very, very critical. And it's not something you wake up in the morning and have a gut feeling about. It's something that you really need to develop with a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks. So as I said, the timing for us staying the course in media was important. The timing of when to exit was actually important. When to start something else and partner with something was important. When to call it a day because it was too early was important. So I think timing is definitely critical. The second one?
Second, I want to do the global ambition versus looking at India itself.
Yeah, I think we've spent the whole day today talking about how, and the morning sessions were about how actually companies should get global. And I think it's a tricky world today. And I think you need to be, if our ambitions go ahead of us, we actually get orphaned. So I would be very cautious when everyone starts by having these sort of global ambitions. Because actually, your core is where you create the maximum amount of impact of what you want to do and have the maximum success.